Am I the asshole for ignoring the groomsmen? This happened at a wedding that I was a bridesmaid at a few weeks ago. I, 35 female, have never been married, no kids, and more than likely will be the last of my friend group to get married. I've been a bridesmaid too many times to count. Almost always, I get paired off with another single guy. My family and friends treat this as an attempt to hook me up with the other single guy. They think it would be so romantic if we tell our grandkids how we met at a wedding. I've never been interested in these guys. At the last wedding that I was at, I was paired off with the groom's 42-year-old stepbrother. Off the bat, I wasn't interested in Dave. If I were to see his profile on a dating app, I would immediately swipe left. Back to this wedding. I get through the ceremony and am now at the reception. I run into some old friends that I haven't seen in a long time, and I didn't know they would be in town. So we spent the night together, catching up and covertly watching a VGK game that someone was streaming on their phone. The bride came up to me and asked if I wanted to sit with Dave. He was alone at a table and wanted to get to know me better. I told her sorry, I wasn't interested, and went back to talking with my friends. If Dave wanted to talk to me, well, he's a grown man and can do it himself. I spent the night hanging out with my friends, having a great time, and didn't think much of it until a few weeks later. I see the bride at a party and she doesn't even greet me. She just tells me that I was a bitch for ignoring Dave. Apparently, he thought I was cute and wanted to get to know me better. He just couldn't because he struggles with social cues. At least I could have just saw him for a few minutes and have been nice to him. First off, I am sick of being nice just to make a man happy. I told her that I was just there to be a bridesmaid, not to be a minder for a middle-aged man. She still called me out for being a rude, stuck-up bee. Was I the asshole, or was the bride being out of line? One more thing, a few months before the wedding, I started to see a guy that I met at a conference. I never told anyone because I wasn't sure if the relationship would last at the time. I don't plan on telling anyone until we hit a milestone because there would be some pushback. It's an international long-distance relationship. Even if I was single, I am still not interested in Dave. In the comments, Youth in Asia 63 says, "Indeed, you were not, nor should have been, a minder for a middle-aged man. If Dave thought that you were cute and wanted to spend time with you, he could have opened his mouth and said so. Imagine if you ended up dating or marrying Dave. Then you could be his social coordinator and handholder, possibly for the rest of your life. Doesn't that sound like a plan?" If you've been told being a date with Dave was the bride's expectation of you as a member of the bridal party, you could have saved yourself some money and time and excused yourself from the whole event. Not the asshole. OP replies, "If I had known that I would have to babysit an underemployed 42-year-old man who is twice my size, I would have dropped out a bridesmaid detail and then retired from the position." The bad agent says, "Not the asshole, but the bride certainly is. You are not an escort meant to keep him company. Tell the bride to hire him one if she's so invested in him having company." Not the asshole. Weddings are not a speed dating event. Wedding parties should not be created with the intent that the matched pairs would hook up. Haven't we seen posts where people are so freaked out that their significant other is paired with a single person and act like this means their significant other will cheat? Whatever promises the bride made Dave are her problem. You are not a party favor to be awarded. She can find someone else to pimp out. Yeah, I agree with that. What the hell's her problem? Like, Dave hasn't brought this up, Dave has kept this to himself, and it's obvious that he's upset in the shadows. But who cares about Dave? That's his problem. Dave, go find someone else to date you. And the bride needs to shut the hell up. The bride cannot see things from your perspective. She's like, I refuse to see how I would feel if I was in your shoes, and I expect you to give Dave a chance and go hold his hand. I could understand her position if you were interested in Dave and Dave didn't want to make the first move, but you wanted to, at least talk to him. If this were the case, I'd understand. But you have told her expressly, I have no interest, I don't want to go anywhere near him, and she refuses to listen to you. She won't even comprehend that no means no. And she's calling you a bitch for doing that multiple times. She's delusional, And I question whether you should even be interacting with this person anymore if she's going to continually attack you for something that is not your problem. And now, onto the updates. Hello. I made a post about a year ago about a wedding that I was at where I ignored the groomsmen who wanted to hook up with me. It didn't get much attention, but the comments were pretty life-affirming. I've been going through a pretty hard time for a few years now. It's frustrating to see your friends find that one and settle down while you're struggling to navigate your 30s alone. Especially when you're from a family and a part of the country where if a woman isn't married with kids by a certain age, something must be wrong with her. My family and friends mean well, but they don't always see how their actions hurt me. Dave did try to reach out to me after the wedding, but I just blocked him. I haven't seen him since, nor do I care to know what he's up to. I stopped talking to the bride. I really didn't appreciate the name-calling or being expected to babysit a middle-aged man. Anyway, I wanted to update on this story so I can close out that part of my life. After the wedding, I just made it clear to everyone that I am done being a bridesmaid. I am officially retired. If you're getting married, good for you. I'm not gonna be a bridesmaid. Not even for an all-expenses-paid bachelorette trip to Cancun. I think the fact that I was getting drunk and watching a hockey game with friends at the reception said it all. I'm just burned out from going to too many weddings. That retirement became official over the summer. I had mentioned that I was in a long-distance relationship. It didn't work out, but it did introduce me to a pretty big career opportunity. I spent a pretty big chunk of 2024 applying for this gig, waiting to see if I got hired, and when I did, close out my life in America. I'm now living in Australia, at a job that I love, and being able to be my own person. I cut my hair, I got some tattoos, I found a hobby I love, I have new friends who run on the same vibe. Australia mentioned? Hell yeah. Guys, chuck a prawn on the barbie for Australia. I don't think I'm gonna get married. If I do, that's great, but at my age, I don't think that kids are in my future anymore, and you know what? I'm starting to accept it. My family doesn't, but I have siblings with kids, so my parents can spoil them. I think I just needed to get away from a really restrictive place in order to find my own happiness. Thanks, guys. I really needed this advice in my life. Still love the VGK, and now I can rep for them from down under. In the comments, Competitive Proof says, "It's worth considering that you don't need a man to be a parent if you want kids. I'm typing this one-handed while nursing an IVF baby conceived with a sperm donor. I wanted the baby, but I couldn't find the partner. If you don't want a baby, great. If you do, a man isn't necessary. Women in the USA, Australia, and other, not all, parts of the world have options." Lyndon Lil Blue Balls says, "I love that she came back with making a middle-aged man happy isn't my effing job. The audacity is too much. For real, who calls another woman a bitch for saying a man should use his own mouth to speak? That other woman was and is an asshole." Future Direction says, "My daughter is 44, never married, no children. She's been in 4 long relationships. The longest was 9 years. She got pregnant with a 9-year partner very early on, but they lost the baby. They never conceived again, and it turned out that he had a very low sperm count. She's now happily living in a 1-bed cottage which she owns outright. There is just her cats, plus the wildlife in the river at the end of her garden. She even has otters to watch. Her neighbors hate them because they steal the goldfish from his pond. She just says that she thinks they wanted a change from trout. And much like OP needed a change from the trout of America to the goldfish of Australia, I welcome you to this glorious country." All's well that ends well with that one, I think. It was the best move to cut her off because someone that calls you a bitch for, not talking to a man twice your weight who you had no interest in is not a good friend and is not a good person. She does not have your best interests at heart. She's just trying to force someone into his life, and that's not fair to either of you. That bridesmaid is delusional and insane and definitely earns the title of arsehole. I'm very much glad for OP for moving on from all of that to greener pastures, and thank you for sharing your story with us. I'd love to know what you guys have to think of this one down in the comments below. Our next post is by user ThrowRAVK, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for cancelling on our family cruise?" So, my parents wanted to do a cruise for the holidays. They invited me, 25 female, my boyfriend, 27 male, my brother, 28 male, and his girlfriend, 26 female. My brother, let's call him James, has always been the golden child. For some backstory, back in high school, when James was discovered to be selling pills, he was just going through a phase. Meanwhile, when I got caught smoking weed, my parents threatened to kick me out. James lost his scholarship and dropped out of college 3 different times, but he's still perfect. I graduated a semester late, and I didn't try hard enough. James still lives in the state where he attended college, and I live in my home state near my parents. He doesn't work, he's not currently in school. My parents buy him flights all the time to come visit, but don't buy me a flight to go see him or go anywhere else. My parents send him money for rent and life necessities. He bought a $2,000 dog recently with that money. When I first got a big job at the age of 22, my parents immediately kicked me off their insurance since I had the option of benefits. James was on their insurance until he turned 26. Last year, I got laid off and moved back in with my parents to save money. When I got my new job, my parents told me that I needed to pay $10,000 in back rent, which was never discussed previously. I did finish paying it off and recently moved in with my boyfriend. This has been a pattern my whole life. James gets everything handed to him, and I have to work my ass off. So now to the cruise. My parents said they wanted to do this, and bought tickets for themselves, James, and his girlfriend. They told me to get my own tickets since I have a well-paying job. I was super upset and told them that it wasn't fair that I was the only one who had to buy their own tickets. My boyfriend couldn't come due to holiday plans with his own family. My parents said that I was acting spoiled and that green wasn't a good look on me. That's such salt in the wound, Jesus. I am so tired of hearing that phrase at this point. They said it's not like I had to get a big, nice room, since we'd be outside for the majority of the time anyway, which is true, but then why get James a nice room? I decided that I had enough, and I wasn't going. But here's where I may be the asshole. I let them continue thinking that I was for months, and then, on the night before they left, they said to get to their house by 8 a.m. so we could start the drive to the port. At 8:30 that day, they start messaging me asking where I am. I texted them, well, since you didn't want to put the effort in to have me join you, I'll be attending my boyfriend's Thanksgiving instead. Have a nice trip with your favorite child, and then I muted the chat. I kinda dig it, that's kinda boss. I talked to some friends about this, and some said that it was petty of me to cancel with no warning, and others said that I should have sucked it up and gone, since I would have had fun when I got there. They've been on the cruise for a couple of days now, and I'm starting to regret how I handled things. Yeah, I probably would have had fun, and it's not like I couldn't afford the tickets. I also could have handled the delivery better, but at the same time, I'm so sick of them treating me like this. So, am I the asshole for cancelling on our family vacation? In the comments, Kazoo says, wait, did I read it correctly that they charged you $10,000 back rent, which had never been discussed prior, and you paid it? Not the asshole, but I would have gone low contact with them, and definitely not even contemplated going on a trip with them. Save that for people that enjoy you, OP. That's when OP should have gone low or no contact. OP needs to make sure that they are never in a position to rely on their parents again. They obviously care significantly less than their golden child. I can't wait until they're elderly and wondering why their golden child doesn't really help them, and OP hasn't contacted them in years. It's gonna be rough on them at that point. And when they die, they'll leave everything to her brother because he needs it and she can take care of herself. Her parents are awful people. Well, the sad thing is, this is not an uncommon situation. My brother's wife's family is like this. Her drug addict golden boy brother gets all of the attention and financial support from their father because he's having a hard time, mostly of his own making. But now since their mother passed, she's expected to take care of the old man now that he has dementia. As an outsider looking in, it is really unfair. Not the arsehole. It's understandable that you're frustrated by the unequal treatment and lack of consideration. You have a right to stand up for yourself and set boundaries with your family. Frankly, I'd go low contact. They keep you around because once they run out of money funding the golden child, they'll be turning to OP chanting, "But family helps each other." Agree. I'm willing to bet that as her parents age, it'll become her responsibility to make sure that their needs are met if she doesn't stand up for herself now. James the golden child will suddenly be MIA. I agree with the sentiment put forward by these commenters. You do have to, make a stand, and that $10,000 of back rent should have been the place to make that stand. And I don't fault OP for that. That is just ignorance. And it's okay to be ignorant because life doesn't come with a handbook that tells you everything that you need to do and everything that you need to look out for. You learn these things through your mistakes. And it's unfortunate that OP had been conditioned throughout their life not to recognize that $10,000 back rent out of nowhere is extreme manipulation. That's why you have to come to places like Reddit that are impartial, that will give you advice for what is objectively okay and what is objectively not. And I understand it's biased. Yes, Reddit doesn't get it right all the time, but Reddit will tell you, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't do that. What they're doing to you is wrong. Please readjust your mental. You need to start recognizing that this is going down a very dark path for you. Set boundaries now so that you're not taken advantage of in the future when the golden child disappears and they're relying on you for their retirement. So given all of that backstory and given how OP has been treated, no, not the asshole for how you went about cancelling the family cruise. They're not allowed to continue neglecting you, continue relying on you, scamming you, gaslighting you, saying that, oh no, he deserves it better, your version of reality is different to ours, you just need to accept that. No, I don't care what she's done here. She should have cut them off such a long time ago. They deserve this, and they deserve her cutting them off completely after this cruise. They are honestly taking the piss. And now, onto the updates. First off, hi everyone. Sorry for posting and then dropping off the face of the earth. I wrote the original post at work during my break, and then as soon as the day ended, my boyfriend and I headed up to the cabins his family rented for the holidays. I wanted to be fully present with them, so I didn't actually have a chance to check this until today, and I can't believe how many people chimed in. I appreciate everyone who took the time to share their thoughts, even though I wasn't able to go through all of them. I tried reading some comments, but got overwhelmed by the sheer amount there was, and gave up after scrolling for 20 minutes. So instead of responding to people individually, I'll try to address some common things I saw in the comments. If there is anything I missed addressing, let me know, and I'll try my best to provide an answer. Obviously, I'll start with the $10K in back rent. To me, the number itself wasn't the issue. I mean, yeah, it definitely is a bit higher than I would have liked, but not completely unreasonable. OP, it's objectively completely unreasonable. Be for real for 1 second. No one charges back rent like that. No. For the amount of time that I lived there, it's not like I would have been able to rent my own place at a cheaper price. And if I hadn't moved in with them, I would have completely depleted my savings and probably gone into debt. While I was laid off and looking for a new job in my field, I had a serving job and did some freelance work as well. So I was contributing to groceries, but not paying rent or utilities. Because of that, I understood why my parents wanted help once I was in a position to do so. I just wish they had defined that expectation from the beginning instead of springing it on me as a surprise. I paid it because I know it was an inconvenience for my parents to have me stay so long, especially during some home renovations, and it didn't feel worth the pushback if I refused. I know it would have turned into a whole big issue, and it just felt easier to pay the money. Yes, I probably have some pushover tendencies that I need to address. Probably? Luckily, I'm in a well-paying field. I'm a technical writer, So once I got my new position, I was able to pay my parents back in about 6 months while also saving up to move out. The timeline for anyone curious is, I was laid off in January of last year. I used my savings to pay rent until my lease was up in June, and then I moved in with my parents. I lived with my parents from June last year to September this year, when I moved in with my boyfriend. I got my current job in May, which is when my parents told me that they wanted back rent and rent moving forward until I moved out. They said that it was helped to motivate me to get back on my feet. Bullshit, such bullshit. So, not all of it was back rent technically, but I just used that term to try to be more concise. By the time I moved out, the total amount that I had owed added up to the 10K, and I had already paid off most of it. I also saw a couple of comments about pursuing legal action against my parents, but I don't think that's worth it or even possible. We never had a written contract, and I didn't argue against paying it. I didn't want them to be able to hold that over me. Going through any legal issue would just dredge the whole thing up again, and I'd rather not do that. It's paid now, so at least it's over with. In the future, I know I should probably be less willing to give in to their demands. It's just difficult when things have been this way my whole life, and my experiences have shown me that any refusal paints me as ungrateful in their eyes. I try so hard to be perfect because I just want them to treat me with the same care and support as they do with James. The worst part is, James and I were super close growing up. When we were kids, we hung out all the time. He was the one who taught me how to ride a bike. He stood up for me when I was getting bullied. I don't think he's a bad person at all. He just never learned to stand on his own 2 feet. Our relationship is strained now because he doesn't get why I have issues with our parents. I miss the brother that I would stay up playing RuneScape with. I'm pretty sure that he fully buys into the idea that he needs extra help since he's always gotten it. He doesn't know how to do or expect anything else. At least he's still nice to me though, but he just refuses to see the differences in how we're treated, and he basically wants me to just suck it up and be part of the family. Sadly, all his support just disappeared once it came to issues with our parents. I hope James gets some distance from them one day and that we can reconnect. I don't want our relationship to keep suffering because of this. Sorry to get sappy for a second, but back to the comments. Another thing that I saw some people ask is why I didn't tell them sooner that I was cancelling. I know that was a petty move on my part, but had I told them earlier, they would have spent those months trying to convince me to go and insulting me if I continued to refuse. It seemed like such a hassle, and the way I did it was much easier. And yeah, maybe this is shitty of me, but I did get some satisfaction out of it. It felt good to treat them at the same level that they treat me. Besides, it's not like it actually affected their trip. They still went, just without me. Many of the comments brought up the idea of going low contact or no contact with my family, and it's something that I've now been considering. My boyfriend is supportive of this decision since he has seen firsthand how my parents are. I'm sure my friends will be supportive as well if I explain the full story. Most of them have never met my parents, and I've tried not to get into the whole family dynamic with my friends since it's depressing for me to talk about, and I also didn't want to come off just as whining all the time. Prior to this, they've only heard some small complaints here and there. With all of that out of the way, here is what happened since my last post. My boyfriend and I got to the cabin late Wednesday night. I gave his mother a bouquet of her favorite flowers, and she loved them. We had a quick glass of wine while talking with his family before heading to bed. I was still a bit uncertain of my decision, so I probably wasn't as peppy as usual, but they didn't seem to mind. That night, I made a promise to myself that I would put my own family issues aside during the trip and just focus on having a good time with my boyfriend's family, who have always been so gracious to me. On Thursday, we woke up early and helped his mum with some preparation for the food and set the table. After, we played some cornhole with his cousins and sadly lost due to my complete lack of athletic ability. The Thanksgiving meal itself was delicious, and his mum is such a good cook. Everyone was sweet to me and made me feel so welcome as part of the family, which helped me feel much better about my decision to spend the holidays with them. Towards the end of the night, his mum even said to me that she knows it is ultimately up to my boyfriend, but she hopes that I can join the family for real someday. I told her that I would be honored if that happens, and we hugged. I really hope it will. I love my boyfriend so much, and I want to spend the rest of my life with him. His family is also an incredible bonus. I had such a wonderful time on Thanksgiving and enjoyed the rest of the weekend as well. We went on some great hikes, hung around by the bonfire, played board games, and watched movies. My boyfriend also spent some time looking after his little nephew, and watching them play with Legos together definitely gave me some slight baby fever, though that's not something that I want to act on for at least a couple of years. We got back yesterday afternoon, and I'm already missing everything. It was genuinely a blast, and there was no family drama, which made my family seem like even more of a mess. I feel like I'm rambling a bit now, and honestly probably have been the whole time, but I'm just so excited to share what a good time I had during the holiday, and that I definitely made the right decision. Unfortunately, this update isn't entirely positive. I wish it could be. My parents reached out last night, and they still weren't happy about my choice. I guess the sea air and unlimited drinks didn't do enough to relax them. My dad sent a passive-aggressive text of cruise pictures with a message that said, "Sad that you chose not to be with your family in such beautiful places, ... God, I hate the ... Do not hit me with the triple dots. And I sent back a picture from my trip with my boyfriend's family and said, "Looks like you guys had a good time." So did we. Then, my mum called and she said that she hoped I regretted missing out on a great family vacation and spoiling their memory due to a petty grudge against my brother. I told her that my issue wasn't with James, but rather their unfair preferential treatment between the two of us. My mum said that I was the one being unfair by comparing our situations, since James needs help while he figures out his direction in life, and I've always been more independent. I told her the only reason that's true is because they never truly allowed me to depend on them. She said she wasn't going to apologize for raising a self-sufficient daughter, and that I should either grow up and be grateful for everything they've done, or leave them alone for good and break their hearts all at once, instead of doing it piece by piece. She called me cruel for dangling the hope of a wonderful holiday, only to snatch it away at the last second. Even though they seem to be just fine without me there based on the photos that my dad sent and what they posted on social media. I was really upset by this point, and pointed out multiple examples of how they prioritize James, just hoping that I could finally make her understand how growing up like this has affected me. My mom said that I had a lot of nerve putting their parenting under a microscope when I have no children myself, and have never had to make tough choices. I had enough of the conversation, and said I guess I'll just leave you guys alone like you want, since I'll never be enough for this family anyway. I hung up and started crying, but my boyfriend was really supportive as always, and we spent the rest of the night eating ice cream and watching the Hunger Games to cheer me up. I absolutely love the series, and am so excited for Haymitch's movie to come out. It was weird to go back to work after everything and act like nothing was the matter, but I think it was also a good distraction. Since I chose my boyfriend's holiday plans instead of my family's, I actually came back feeling mostly refreshed. Besides the events of last night, instead of drained like I most likely would have been after the cruise. I haven't heard anything from my parents yet, but I have a feeling that they're just bluffing. I'm sure once they need something they'll reach out, or they'll probably try and smooth things over by Christmas so they don't have to explain the situation to our extended family. I haven't decided yet if I'll be open to reconciling. On one hand, I know I deserve better than to be treated as a burden and an afterthought while doing so much for them. I'm tired of trying to live up to their expectations, and I'm not optimistic about their behavior ever changing. But on the other hand, they are my family, and it's just so difficult to fully walk away. I just want to feel the love and acceptance from my own family that I get from my boyfriend's family. Why is it so hard for them to treat me like I matter? I'm also worried that if I don't make nice with them, they'll twist the story to make me seem like the problem, and my extended family will be mad at me too. There are people I like within my family, but my parents have a lot of influence over everyone's opinions. I don't know if it's worth putting up with them to at least keep some ties to my family, or if it would be better to accept the loss and move on from a dynamic where I am clearly not appreciated. I want to keep my brother at least, but maybe I'm just holding on to the past and that version of James doesn't exist anymore. I hope that's not true. I just don't know how to get through to him since he is so brainwashed by my parents and thinks they can do no wrong. I'm not sure if I'll ever truly get my brother back. I've got some big things to think about now, and I don't know if I'm ready to make a major change to my life. I do believe, though, that I would feel much freer and lighter if I at least distance myself from them, and maybe even cut contact entirely. I guess I'll just have to see what happens. I'm sure I already know the answer to this, but is it stupid to still hold out hope that things can work out? In the comments, 41 Flavors and Then Some says, I feel sad for OP. She wants a family that doesn't exist. If James wasn't completely worthless, then he would rein in their parents, but he's just enjoying life on their dime. OP ruined nothing. If her parents weren't so selfish and biased, things would be fine. I hope that OP has lots of good therapy so she can have an extra shiny spine. She'll need it when her parents tell her that they're entitled to her money when they are old and James is nowhere to be found. Or is, but we can't have Whittle Jamesy caregive. It would be difficult and stressful. Cynical Mage replies, OP's going to be an amazing mother, if that becomes her path, because she has clarity. She has been raised with a perfect blueprint of what not to do. She'll do fine in life. She is strong. She is beginning to realize her own worth. She can hold her head high, and one day she'll witness karma coming home to roost. 41 Flavors and Then Some replies, she will definitely witness karma. People like James never repay their parents, either monetarily or with time and care. If she does have kids, that would most likely be another way for her parents to let her down. They'd be all about playing grandparents until James had kids. Then suddenly, it'd be no time or effort for OP's kids. Screw that. And Cynical Mage replies, no way she'll let them be involved enough to do damage. She wised up before having them. Later in life, her kids will have questions, because mine certainly did. But we explained in age-appropriate language that my parents were not good people. And as they grew up, we could kind of trickle-truth it. Mine are almost all adults, and now are fully aware of what we shielded them from, and it's okay. James, well, that can go one of two ways. All depends when mummy and daddy either run out of assets or become a burden. They're in for a shock of their lives, just to put it mildly. Yeah, I don't really have too many words to close this out with. I know that it's kind of on the shelf and not exactly concluded, but in its own way, I think that is a conclusion that OP has given us. You know, she's at a crossroads right now. Does she cut them off or does she not? It seems like she's going to go a bit of a middle path and keep them at an arm's length. I'm sure there's people listening right now that have been through similar experiences and have chosen the path of keeping your family at an arm's length so that you still have access to your extended family and you don't get completely outcast. I don't see it going particularly well. I'm hopeful that things can work out for them in the future, but I'm really just not sure. You know, they've conditioned her this much. They expect her to act a certain way, and when she doesn't, you see how they react. And if they continue not getting their way into the future, I just think they're going to poison the extended family against OP, spin a narrative, and have the entire family coming down on her until she either bends to their will or she leaves. She just cuts everyone off and just makes a new life or continues her life with her new in-laws, with her new family. That's my prediction. I would love to know what you guys think of that prediction down in the comments. Is it accurate, or do I have no life experience? Maybe. I don't know. It's just that I feel like once people are grounded in their ways, especially when they enable the son, OP's brother in this instance, it's gone on for so long, I don't see it ever changing. They're going to die never having self-reflected that they did wrong. Anyway, I'll leave it there. That's where I'm going to leave the episode today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, chuck a prawn to the barbie, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.